Now, I think it's safe to say any parent, educator, or school counselor will tell you the pandemic had a significant impact on public education, and the most recent fallout is school absenteeism. All around the country, students have been absent at record rates ever since schools reopened after the pandemic. Now, according to a study by the Associated Press, as well as a professor at Stanford University, the number of chronically absent students is well over 6 million, and the absences were more prevalent, unsurprisingly, among black and brown students for a variety of reasons. But I'm going to introduce you to a man who's making it his mission to combat student absenteeism one door at a time. Joining me now is Dr. David Heiber. He is founder and CEO of Concentric Education Solutions. That's a black-owned education support system. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, my brother. Talk to me first before we get into the nitty-gritty of this. I'm good, brother. Talk to me about your background. You grew up in a way that in many ways inspired you, I think, to affect and impact the lives of kids, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely inspired me, if not influenced me. By the way, happy J5 to all the noobs out there. Belated happy J5.
Yes.
That also
achievement. I should have known.
that also definitely influenced me. But I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, Newcastle, Delaware. Got kicked out of 5 schools, but I had a lot of challenging circumstances that was the story behind getting kicked out of schools. And I didn't have a lot of caring adults, even though I was this quote-unquote track star. And getting kicked out of school, subsequently becoming incarcerated, really shaped me. And when I got out of undergrad, we went into administration in Baltimore City, I knew that I wanted to make sure that students were supported.
Wow, that's an important story to tell, and I'll tell you why. There are people who get kicked out of schools, people who get treated poorly in schools, people who don't do well in school, and it makes them run from schools. It makes them run from institutions, and instead you turned your story into something that can help others, man. That's beautiful, man. Now, talk to me about CES. How does it help children who are struggling to make it to school every day? Because that's, like we said, 6 million.
6 million. So a very simple strategy, one door at a time. It sounds cliche, but it's not. The fact of the matter is, no one student situation, no one family situation is the same. And you have to approach it one door, one student at a time, and really understand what the students and the families from their perspective. All too often in education, we speak of our perspective as adults. We have got to understand what they need. They're telling us if we choose to listen and we choose to listen authentically. And that's what CES is about. One student at a time, one door at a time.
Wow. Now, they say it takes a village. We often say that. And again, it's another thing that could be a cliche, but it is also something that's really true. How do you do this work alongside families, alongside community members, alongside schools? How do you get everybody involved?
So on any given day, we're knocking on thousands of doors a day. And we, quite frankly, just listen. So home visits are nothing new. I think what we did is we just used our technology to be able to document that data and those stories that we're listening, get it to the people who need to do something with it in real time. So it's one thing to identify the resources, or students to identify the resources. It's another thing to get that information in real time. And so we have a team of people. And what we did, and this isn't, I don't think anything too innovative, is I went to the communities. I got brothers and sisters from the community who happened to go to college, many of them in fraternities and sororities, who wanted to give back. So they understood the communities in which they're serving. They've been through those challenges. They had empathy, and they had a commitment to give back. And I really have a team.
I appreciate that you shout that team out. Some people act like they're self-made, individually successful, and they ain't got no community or village propping them up and leading them to success. So I appreciate your honesty and humility. Just like a good Kappa, always humble. What's the impact been so far?
Absolutely. So we're about 400,000 home visits in. I'm probably about 80,000 home visits in across the country. In many places, it's really understanding the challenges and the barriers. And similar to what you said, prior to the pandemic, this was an issue. But post-pandemic, this is an issue that disproportionately affects people, students of Black and brown and poor white communities, quite frankly. And what we try to do is simply understand the challenges, and we highlight it with our technology and just knocking on thousands or hundreds of thousands of doors, the 3 primary reasons why students are not coming to school now, and then try to get resources to mitigate those barriers.
That makes sense. Speaking of resources, you recently secured a $5 million investment from New Market Venture Partners, which makes you part of the less than 1% of black founders who received venture capitalist funding. I knew the number was low. I didn't realize until I was preparing for this that it was less than 1%. What do you think that says about the scale of chronic absenteeism, and how will this kind of funding help you create a better situation?
No, I appreciate it. It is. I did not realize it was less than 1% either, right? And that number goes down a little bit or it goes up a little bit depending upon what it is. I think what chronic absenteeism is now, and we're making the parallel, is chronic absenteeism is not an educational problem. It's a public health problem. It's literally impacting our public health, our way of life, our public safety. Because these young people, and I was one of them, if you're not engaged in school, you're going to be engaged in something else. And the alternative often is very challenging, if not criminal behavior. And so what the funding has allowed us to do is it allowed me to build the infrastructure, really focus on technology, improve the training that our PSAs get, our professional student advocates. Those are the people on the front lines every single day. In fact, I'm not sure what the weather is like in Philly, but here in Baltimore, it's cold and it's raining. And my team are out doing home visits.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 3 days a year we don't do home visits, and that's Thanksgiving.
That actually leads me
Christmas,
to a question, man, because like when it's raining and nasty outside, don't nobody want to go to work. Don't nobody want to go to school. I get that, right? But then there are people who never go to work, never go to school. But
Facts.
What are the reasons, the top 3 reasons maybe that people don't go to school, that chronic absenteeism is prevalent in certain families and households?
So
what are the reasons?
Absolutely. What the data is telling us right now, and this is post-pandemic, so technology was the mitigating barrier of technology was addressed. But right now, the number one factor is students do not feel connected to a caring adult. When you peel back all the different layers and look at the stories that they're telling us, they do not feel connected to an adult, that an adult is checking on them every single day. They need that. They need that support. The number 2 is they need a better quality education. And then number 3 is transportation or other family issues. Those are the top 3 reasons that students are not coming and then staying in school, why they become disengaged in the first place.
That's so interesting. I imagine school safety was going to be in the top 3. I know it's in the top 5, but I thought it would be a little bit higher. Like people, don't go to school when it's not safe. But I mean, you're raising some real nuts and bolts issues that speaks to our need, our meaning the country, to invest in communities that are vulnerable, to invest in resources, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in protecting our kids, man. All right, Dr. Heiber, I want to thank you so much for joining us on Negrio. If you want to find out more about the awesome work he's doing with students and families, make sure you check out his website. It's concentriced.org. That's CONCENTRICED.org. You can also check out the Instagram page. It's Concentric EDS.